Aim Flex product controller on a Pro700. Up in the top left corner we have our ISO controllers. We can see that the one with the 3 spray tips, which is our product controller, has a green box around. When that is selected, we will see this particular screen. On the home screen we have our rate that we're spraying at and our target pressure. In the middle is our auto manual button. We have our ground speed that we're traveling, and just above the speed in fine print it says 6.5 to 22.9 here. That is our speed range for the tip that we have selected with the rate and pressure that we're running. Now if I want to change my rate, I can tap on the white box and I can change it to 5 gallons an acre, and you'll see that my speed range has changed from 13 to 45. If I change my pressure as well, it will also change my speed range, 14 to 51. So that range tells you whether you're running the correct tip or not, and what speeds you can run and still apply the proper rate and droplet size based on the pressure. The gauges underneath each will show you a small green area when you're close to your desired rate or pressure. By tapping on the gauge, on the left side we have 2 presets. 5 and 10 gallons an acre is what is set in this monitor, so you can quickly toggle between those two. If I tap it again, it goes to a plus or minus. The plus and minus will move by the delta rate that is set in the monitor. As well, for the pressure, we have presets of 40 and 60 psi programmed into this monitor. We can toggle on the fly. If we want finer droplets, we set it to 60 psi. We get into a drift sensitive area. We can drop it in this case to 40 psi. In the middle we also have our area counter, our sparge pressure. Down below that we have our tank level. This sprayer is showing 363 gallons in it. If I tap on the tank, it takes me in where I can tell it that I am full. Now I'm back to 1200 gallons. Or I can adjust the tank level. If I put half a tank in it, I can say it's got 600 gallons in it. We also have a low tank limit in here. So this particular sprayer, when it gets down to 5 gallons left, it'll alert the operator that there is only 5 gallons left. You can set that to 10, 50, 100, whatever you're comfortable with. Some sprayers will have a fill flow meter system, so a flow meter on the inlet line going into the tank. In that case, you would need a fill flow meter cal entered in there. The green bell in the middle of the screen, green bell means that we have no error codes. If this turns yellow or red, we have an active error code that needs to be taken care of. By tapping on it, we can see the active error codes. There's none active on this sprayer, and we can also see history codes. By using the up and down arrow key, we can highlight the code number and it'll give us a brief description of what's going on. If that doesn't make sense or you can't determine the problem from there, if you give this code to our service department, they can go in the book and find out more detailed information on it. On the right side of the monitor, system efficiency should run somewhere between 90 and 110%. If we were under applying, say we had plugged filters, your efficiency would drop off because your rate isn't putting on enough. If you had a leak on a boom or a hose and you're dumping out more product than you're supposed to, your efficiency number is going to go the other way. Below that, we have our nozzle duty cycle. That duty cycle will change depending on what rate and pressure you're running and what speed you're running. If you're driving down the field and that number starts coming up into 90 or higher, that number will turn red, and that will indicate that you're out driving your tips. If you push past 98, 99%, the sprayer can't put out any more product and you will under apply. If it drops down below 25%, you will be over applying because it won't drop the rate down low enough. As well, we have a min and max there. You will see those numbers change when you're turning. The turn compensation will show you what side is going higher and the other side is going lower. If you're maxing that out when you're turning, you're going too fast and the outer boom is under applying, which means you need to slow down to keep those from maxing out or minning out. Okay, we have our boom spray bar here. That will show us what sections are on. And on newer software versions, when we are not turned on, when the pump's not turned on, we have a button here to relieve pressure. If we hit that button, it's going to relieve the boom pressure, asks if you want to do that. If you hit the check mark, it will open up all of our NCV valves and all of our boom valves for the allotted amount of time to relieve the pressure. This is a good thing to do before you go out and take a nozzle body apart or take an NCV off, to get rid of that pressure so it's not spraying at you. Coming down the right side of the screen, we have our product pump on or off. Right now it's off. These are our preset buttons, which can be toggled between pressure and rate depending what we want to do by tapping the gauges. Our settings button, which I'll come back to. Our tally registers, which will give us our acre counters, task, lifetime, distance counters, device information. The house always takes us back to the home screen. The very bottom is nozzle diagnostics. We can go in here and we can look at individual nozzles and see that they're green or red, or if we have issues. And if we hit the drop down, we get more detailed diagnostic information on there. Nozzle flow offset is used to set certain nozzles at a higher rate. If I go in here and I put in 10%, when we come out of these, we'll see some new buttons showed up on the bottom of the monitor. So if our wheels are tracked out, we could hit this guy and the nozzles in the wheel tracks will apply 10% more rate than the rest of the boom, and it'll continue to do so until we hit the button again. This button over here is when the wheels are tracked in to do the wheel tracks. And then these two outer buttons will do, it shows 3 nozzles on there, but it's actually 7 or 8 nozzles. We can turn those on, and right now the right hand end of the boom, the outside 7 or 8 nozzles, will apply 10% extra product. So if we have a dirty fence line that we want to give a little extra drink along the edge, we can do that. Settings menu. First thing that comes up in the settings menu is the self-test speed. If we want to do a stationary spray or do some testing, we can go in here and tell it that we are doing 10 miles an hour, for example. And then when we go back to our home screen, we have speed. We can do a stationary spray. Your section control may also lock you up. You may have to bypass your section control to allow this to work when you're stationary spraying. When I go back in there, we have 6 different boxes to go in and look. First one being user settings. So we can go in and see what settings are selected. Tank fill settings, we already went through that from the shortcut from the home page. Alarm settings. Sorry about that. Alarm settings, off target, off rate, stuck poppet alarm should be turned on so that if we stick a poppet, we know about it. Okay. Preset settings. This is where we can go in and set our rate presets. So our rate right now currently is set to 5 and 10. That's for these 2 buttons on the right. And our pressure presets. If we want 30 and 50, we can change that here. Rate and pressure delta, every time we hit the increase decrease buttons, when that option is selected here, this machine will do the rate at 2 gallons and the pressure at 5. Product control settings. Shouldn't have to play with these settings. If you do, you probably want to talk to someone from Young's about fine-tuning if it's not holding rate or things like that, and we can help you out as to what needs to be done in here. If I page over flow meter cal, This is the number that should be on the little white tag on the back of the flow meter, on the coming off the wire on the flow meter. That's how many pulses per 10 gallons that flow meter puts out. If you feel your sprayer isn't putting on the correct rate, you can check that number versus the flow meter. If it does match, you may want to talk to one of us and we can talk you through which way, or if you should adjust it, or if there's something you should check ahead of time. That number is a good number to have written down somewhere, because the little tag on the flow meter sometimes disappears, and then when software's done or certain calibrations are done, you have to re-enter that number. So if the tag is gone, then we have to guess and do flow cals. So that is a good number to write down on your window, in your little notebook, in your operator's manual, that sort of thing. Okay, on the top row, up in the top left, we have this little tractor and gear. If we go into that system, or that tab, nozzle control mode, standard. Standard would be our aim command flex, the nozzle's pulsing. That is where we normally want to run. If I open up that box, we have 6 choices in here. The 2 main I'm going to talk about is standard, that's aim flex, that's where you're going to want to run most of the time, and bypass. Bypass mode would be conventional spraying. So you would put a tip on the secondary spout on each nozzle body and open up a little tap on each one. The aim system stays shut off and you would be doing conventional spraying. We would use this for most air induction tips. We recommend it for liquid fertilizer. As well, if your aim system goes down and you have to spray and we can't get it going in time, you can move your tips, run a conventional sprayer. It's not what we want, but it will keep us running in the meantime and we can still spray. We have a limited spray speed, but we're still spraying. For these other options, I'll let you have a look in the ops manual to read what they are. I don't know if you'll ever use them. Section control. When we open that up, we have the choice of virtual or boom valve. On a boom valve, we have 7 sections on this machine. Virtual, on a Pro700 virtual boom sections on an Aim Flex machine will give you 36 sections. So they're not broken up evenly. The outside nozzles are individual. Some of them are 2 nozzles to a section, some of them are 3. But we break down 72 nozzles on a 120-foot machine to 36 sections. On a Viper 4, you may have a third option in here, which is a paid unlock for individual nozzles. That option is not available on a Pro700 due to the horsepower limitations of the Pro700. Boom size should be your 120-foot, 7-section, 20-inch spacing. Now, most importantly on this page, NCV tip size. Whenever we change our tips on our turrets out there or put a different tip on, we have to tell this monitor which tip is on there. If I tap on the box, you can see we have multiple tips. If I put a red 04 on, I select red 04. If I have a blue 10 on, I change it to a 10. If I have a twin body on and I have 2 4s on, I would add those together and put an 8 in there. For example, if I have a 6 and a 4, that would equal a 10. This is very important that that is entered properly. Bypass tip size, we would tell it if we were running in bypass mode what size tip we have on there. Right now that option's grayed out because we are in standard or aim flex mode. If we page over, we can see our section sizes based on boom size, or boom sections. So 7 sections, if we want to shut off the console switch and fold the outer tips in, we can figure out how big our sprayer is based on that. The last option I'm going to show you in here is if I hit this heartbeat symbol, the diagnostic symbol, and if I page to the right twice, this is where we calibrate our NCVs. So if we ever change a nozzle control valve and put a new one on, we have to calibrate it so it knows which nozzle's in which location. but that's where you find it, and then follow the on-screen instructions.